Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,000 stand-up comedians over the last 47 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, the wonderfully funny Mr. Josh Pugh. Yay! Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Great.
What a welcome that is.
Great to see you, my friend, and thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
So it's very kind of you to do this. The chat. We're going to talk about your comedy career for the next 45 minutes or so. So if you can tell me, how did you first become a comedian in the first place?
Wow. So I think it's something, and it's always easier in hindsight. I think it's always something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I can remember loving comedy when it was on the telly as a kid. I loved Vic and Bob, and I loved Lee Evans when he was on. And then I was at an age where I kind of saw Peter Kay come onto the scene, and it was like the first time I'd seen something. And I'm like, this guy's speaking about my life and my family in a similar way you get with music. And he's like, oh, that feels like that album's written for me. And I remember we had the DVD, the Live from the Top of the Tower. Well, it was a DVD actually, and it was passed around the family. And it's like, you've got to watch this thing, and everybody loved it. And then I think I had a calendar, and like a garlic bread calendar, and calendar. And it was like these things that were in our lives every day that we all knew about, but had never been pointed out to us. I'll never forget that phenomenon. It was a mad couple of years, and Phoenix Nights.
Yeah.
That was like, oh God, that's not the club we go to. It's not the club that's on our road. And then when I was in kind of year 11, it's The Office that came out, and that was great in a different way. So I had like Gervais and Peter Kay at the point in my life when I'm like 15, 16, 17, which is, I think, same with music. It's such an influential time, isn't it?
That's exactly why I do the blog. It's exactly why there is something there with the comedians. You discover something and they're listening to you. They're relating to what your life is, really, and that's just magical if you can relate to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Then also like Frank Skinner, so he's like, he's a Midlander like me, and he's into football. In Euro '96, that's the time I fell in love with football as well. So comedy has always been dead close to my life without realising. And then I kind of never did anything performery before. I played the drums as a kid, but was never in a band. Just practiced by myself in my room, which is completely pointless as a drummer.
So what gave you the bug to actually go up on stage? When was your first ever gig?
So I was 24, so I'm 32 now. Yeah. I would have been 24. And I'd always, so that's my point. I was kind of wanting to do it for years without realising. And then suddenly I was like, I think I want to be a stand-up comedian. But it's such a daunting thing to try, Especially, a lot of people come to comedy through acting or through they've been in a band, but I'd never done anything. I just done normal jobs and stuff. And I thought, I really want to do this. It took me ages to start, because when I was starting, I thought I'm going to start, not to have a go at it, I was starting because this is actually what I wanted to do forever.
Yeah.
So that's why it felt a bigger first hurdle to get across, Rich, if that makes sense.
Oh, very much so. So what year are we talking when you first went on stage?
So that's 2014, that is.
And where was it?
It's May the 22nd,
wow.
2014, at a place called the Wetmore Whistle, which is a pub in Burton-on-Trent.
Right.
And I had no kind of I couldn't even picture what the gig would look like in my head. I think I'd been to see John Bishop in an arena.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to an arena that night. But other than that, I had no real picture of what the gig would look like. It was like a side room of a pub. That every chair was a different chair. There was like a pull-up banner. There's probably about 30 people in there.
Wow.
And it was. I met a guy called Joe Tomlinson who doesn't do comedy now, and so we were all new acts. He came over to me straight away and introduced himself. He'd done one gig, and straight away I just got the vibe from him. I thought, oh no, these are my people. This is
it. Yeah, and you're
this
away.
is it, man. Before I'd even been on, I thought, this is great.
Because you're Midlands based, aren't you?
I am, mate.
Yeah.
I'm near Coventry. I'm like right in the middle of the country.
Right. My auntie lives in Warwick, and I went to college in Stoke, so I know Staffordshire. And when you said Burton-on-Trent, it clicked. I'm sure I've been there.
I'm sure, yeah.
And when you were talking about Peter Kay, I first saw him in a tiny club in Manchester before he was famous, and he was on a bill of 5 acts. And he was 4th on, and I laughed so hard at him. I said to my mate, he's going to be a superstar. I laughed so hard I missed the 5th act. And the 5th act was Dave Gorman. I had to apologise when I met him.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible. I love Peter Kay.
So you had that feeling with him, Rich. Wow, this is something, we're watching something here.
Yeah. And you're so right about Frank Skinner when we saw him in the 90s in the stand-up, and he was just so he could just be naturally funny. And same with Peter Kay. They were so good.
And they felt like people you might know.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
Yeah.
They felt like somebody that might drink in the pub
exactly.
on your street, or who your dad works with, or something.
Exactly. That's so true. It's the relatability of them. So you're on stage doing your first gigs. Did you, when you first started out, did you go the route of you were doing 5 minutes in pubs and friends were coming along? Was that the way you got into it, or was there another way?
No, that was it. So it was 5 minutes, and I didn't tell my family to start with. My first gig, I didn't tell anybody, and then my second gig, my now wife came to.
Yeah.
And then, but no, I didn't really invite friends and family for a long time.
No.
But yeah, that's what I was doing, kind of pubs or just anywhere. There's these things called gong shows, Rich. I'm sure you know about them.
I have a story for you in a minute.
Okay. So they can be quite brutal. I'm sure your listeners know, but if you're booked in to do 5 minutes, but if the audience aren't enjoying you, they can raise a card and you're off before your 5 minutes. and these aren't local things; these are all over the shop. So
yeah,
so I was doing them just because it's stage time and.
That's very brave to do it early on.
But I didn't know anything else. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. When I first went to Edinburgh, I know the chap. I knew the chap who did the Free Fringe, and I said, I've always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Can I have a go? And he put me on a gong show, an old people's gong show on a Monday afternoon in Edinburgh Haymarket, where it was pouring down. And I wrote this incredible, I thought, script about me crashing cars in Carlisle. And I walked on. There was 3 people in the crowd, and I walked on, and I said, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, which I do, but I can't see the resemblance myself. And some old bloke at the back just went, "Fuck off," and gonged us off.
Straight away.
I didn't even get to do the script. He said, the promoter said, "Have another go," and a similar thing happened. And I thought, maybe never say never again. But I think my place is in the audience supporting you.
Or as an introduction, that's probably that's the difficult gig, isn't it, for a first one?
If you can conquer that, you can do anything.
And then I think I'm sure a lot of people say this to you. So you start off quite well.
Yeah.
And then I think about my 4th gig in, I had a terrible experience. It's very similar to what you had there. And I thought, oh my God, I thought I could do this. And I don't know if I can do it now.
I think though I say this to a lot of comedians, you have to have the difficult gigs to gain the experience to become a better comedian.
Definitely. It's like
part and parcel of it.
Do you ever see the boxers when they're training and they're lying down and the trainer's got like a heavy medicine ball and they're just smashing it off the stomach? They build the stomach muscles up, and I think that's what them gigs are.
It's not that bad, is it? So you're on stage and the first early gigs. What did you like to talk about initially? Have you got a theme running through your material, or?
I think I was doing probably an incarnation of what my style now, really, trying to kind of, probably a bit more surreal when I first started.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got the fear. Or you haven't got the editing skills. Well, they're never going to go for this. And it's actually quite an exciting time, really, because you're never second guessing yourself. You kind of, they're going to love this. You've got that at the start, and then that, you haven't got the editing or the preempting what's not going to work at that point. So it's quite a nice, very exciting time, actually. You'll do anything. I'd take a poem on, or I'd read something from a news. I mean, I'd never dream of doing that now, but in those early days, you're just throwing everything at it, I think.
The wonderful thing, and I've seen you a few times now, the wonderful thing, even from you talking about that from the early days to now, is you even if you don't project, even if you don't feel it, you have this incredible confidence. You seem to go on a screen or I presume live. I'm coming to see you live at the Leicester Comedy Festival soon. You walk out and you must think, right, I'm going to make this audience laugh before I leave the stage. Is that your premise, or?
Yeah, I think it's like with anything, isn't it? It's if you've done it enough times.
Yeah.
All the data is in my favour that it's going to go well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not an unfound. An amazing thing. I've done this lots of times. 95% of the time it goes well, and so the chances are this is going to be one of those times.
Yeah. Well, no, it is, and as I said earlier, the more you do it, the more confident and the more experience, and it makes you better confident.
And the stakes get lower, Rich, as well, because you've had bad gigs and it's not the end of the world anymore.
Sure, yeah.
So the stakes are lower, and I think it's like anybody, isn't it? You see it with football when a team gets relegated with 5 games in hand, but go and play brilliantly in those next 5 games.
Unless it's Carlisle United.
Yeah.
I'll support them till I die. Right. So when you do, so you progressed from your 5 minutes to your 10 minutes to your 20 minutes to your hour-long shows now. Tell me about your writing process for a routine or a show. How do you go about doing it?
Yeah, and I think when you're a comedian, you're always looking.
Right.
You're always looking, I think. So stuff does come to you, and sometimes you think, I'm just going to chill out and not think of anything today, not try and do anything.
Sure, yeah.
And then you kind of, it's like your brain relaxes and it gives you a load of stuff.
So do you have a little notebook with you as you go along and you jot ideas down?
Yeah, I have a notebook, and I'll use the notes function of my phone.
Right.
And everybody uses the note. So my notebook, if I open it front to back, it's all my ideas. If I open it back to front, it's all my set lists.
That is well organised.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever spoken to Andrew Bird. I've seen Andrew Bird before.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah.
I love Andrew Bird.
He hasn't been on here. I'd love to have him as a guest.
Oh, I'm sure he'd be up for it. He's a great guy. And he loves comedy. He does a thing where it's he has like a data page diary.
Right.
So you can see exactly what material he's done at what gig. So if he ever does that gig again, he can look back and think, I did this, this and this. Which is quite...
Brilliant.
So simple, isn't it, that is? But it's brilliant.
It's so well done because a friend of mine always, if I go to the comedy with him, he always says, I've seen this before. And you're always looking for originality, because if you're on a tour, you've got a show that could last 6 months. But if you go to it if you go to comedy shows as long as I do, I don't mind hearing it before, because it's the delivery of the joke, and anything can happen in the room and all the rest of it, And
I suppose because you see so much, you probably see routines grow.
Yeah.
And develop, and they've added that bit, or they've done that slightly differently, and that's something who's really into comedy. I enjoy watching that.
Very much so. It's either the routines or the comedians themselves. It's one of the beauties of the blog. I mean, because I've seen so much from each comedian. It's wonderful watching them grow and develop, as you say. Yeah. Let's move on. In 2014 and 2015, you won the Midland New Act of the Year.
Yes, yeah.
And you also won the New Comedian of the Year award in 2016. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Well deserved. Please describe these experiences and what's your view on comedy competitions? Do you think they're a good thing?
So, it's really strange. I personally feel weird about winning.
Right.
I can't get out there quick enough. It's absolutely not my personality, and it's kind of a bit of a necessary evil when you start because it helps you progress and stuff.
Right.
But whether you do well or whether you do badly, I never really come away from competitions feeling very good.
Right.
I either feel awkward for doing well or bitter for doing badly.
Right. Oh, mate. Right.
But what is good? It's a great way to meet people who are your school year in comedy.
Yeah.
They started at the same time as you, and you kind of go through. What you said there about Peter Kay, Dave Gorman on a bill together. You kind of it's a good way of meeting people who are at the same level as you at that point, and to see where you're at and see what other people are doing. It's quite it's nice in that sense.
Do you think it furthers your career the more competitions you do, or does it depend on how much work you do in comedy clubs? Or
and I'm sure at the time I was entering the competitions because it was another gig and I wanted to do as many gigs as possible, and I think a lot of new acts do that because it's another chance to get up and perform.
Sure.
And that's the only way. And if you can do well in them, great. But it's also by no means is it a marker stick at all of how well or how good a comedian you're going to do, because yourself, there's some people who are not 5-minute comedians.
Yeah.
You need to appreciate somebody over 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. Like Billy Connolly over 5 minutes, it
doesn't work.
It's not going to work. It's not going to. You're not going to see the best of him, and it's the same with competitions. They are what they are, Rich.
That's really interesting and true, because you can't experience what I love for certainly in an hour-long show. If it starts off at one point and then it goes right round and it finishes off, but it can go off and divert. And he's a classic example of doing that, Billy Connolly. But you're right. If he just did 5 minutes, it would be like boom, and you're off. Okay, so to date, what has been your worst or best comedy gig? I can't imagine you having bad gigs because you're so funny.
Well, the worst one probably would be an early one. It was a pub, but there was no side room of this pub. It was a pub. In front of classic. If you had to draw a bad gig, you draw it. None of the components required for it to work. No lights, no microphone. The audience didn't know it was going to happen, and there was dogs in there. People bringing their shopping in. People playing pool.
So it just kicked off.
It was just we just started.
Brilliant.
It was so peculiar, but again, it's one of those experiences. You travel with a few of your mates.
Yeah.
And it's when you first start, it's not bleak. It's an experience. It's great.
I think you have to start somewhere.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Okay, and your best one?
My best gig. Probably my favourite feeling. Probably my favourite feeling. So I've obviously been lucky to do some really good gigs, and there's two really, not specific, but two experiences I really enjoy. So one is when you're in Edinburgh and you've got a buzzy room, and
Yeah.
your show's working, and you know your show's working, and they're just with you from the get-go. You feel like a superstar. It's an amazing feeling.
It is amazing. Yeah, yeah.
And then my other favourite feeling is new material gig. You got no idea if what you've thought of is any good, and it flies, and you're skipping home afterwards.
It must be. I mean, watching it from an audience point of view, my adrenaline is on fire when I've laughed so hard and enjoyed something so much. Delivering it must be incredible.
Oh, it's I think you deliver it with that excitement is in your delivery, and it can almost carry maybe an idea that isn't massively even that good.
Yeah, yeah.
But because you deliver it with excitement, and it's a new idea you've not said it. I think the audience can feel that as well. Do you? I think it's something
Very much so. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt, it's not just me generating the laughter. It's like there is a buzz in the room. I always remember the first time I went to Edinburgh. The first year, Alan Carr was just taking off, and you couldn't get in to see him at all anywhere. But the buzz in the street about this new comedian, whether you like him or not, was extraordinary, and that's the magic of it. When you find these, the blog doesn't just cover established comedians; it also covers up new up and coming comedians. And there are 2 or 3 right now who are just, well, there's loads obviously, but the ones that I've seen, that I think, oh, this guy or this girl is going to be amazing, and because I've seen so many of them, it's wonderful trying to find the next one.
Yeah,
it's great, and you're a classic example. I'm so much looking forward to coming to see you live.
Oh, great.
Right, so how do you cope with any nerves, if you get any, before you go on stage?
So yeah, I do get nerves now and again. I get a wave of nerves. Not every time. It's usually something's a bit different about the gig, and I feel, maybe it looks a bit rowdy, or I've not gigged for a week or so because I've been away or been doing other stuff, and how do I well, you've got no choice. You've got to go on.
You've got to do it. Once you're committed, you've got to do it.
That's it. There's no way you can't go on. So you've just got to go on. I know when it's a particular rowdy gig, I always say to myself, I'm not going to let these people ruin my night.
So it's our fault.
Yeah, exactly. But,
that's a great answer.
But I always think if you ever go on with holding the audience in contempt, you'll never have a good gig. You've got to go on with some warmth and some, assume they're going to be great until they prove themselves otherwise.
Yeah. Once you're on stage and you've started, are you fine, or do you still get nervous?
No, you're okay. Sometimes I've done a couple of big gigs where you'll get the shakes.
Right.
And all you're thinking is, can people see that I'm shaking? And then you've got that stream of consciousness going on. Then it subsides. It doesn't last.
Mate, wow.
Yeah. But it's great. It's such a. I always wonder if, we're taking years off our lives by putting ourselves in that state.
Well, even if we are, and I include the audience, what a life!
Yeah. Well, exactly. Some people never get that. Some people jump out of an aeroplane to get that. Do you know what I mean? And we just get to it's an amazing thing.
It is incredible. It's incredible. How do you remember all your routines? Do you have a way of remembering them?
That's a good question, because I write in these notebooks, and I can't think of ever going back and reading any of them. Genuinely, and I record myself, but I don't listen back to them. If I haven't done a show for a long time and I'm doing the show again, I will watch something or listen to something. But usually, they're so in your consciousness because you're thinking about them and you're doing them every. It's like song lyrics. You've heard them. You've heard yourself say them so many times. There's a rhythm of it. And, But sometimes what you'll get if you get too. I've done this, especially when I'm very tired. I've done lots of gigs close together. if I've got two bits that are quite similar in kind of like rhythm or words that are similar, I've ended up like mishmashing two bits together, which I managed to get out of it, but I'm like, oh gosh. So yeah, there's so in there. But I've definitely got stuff I've forgotten about, and sometimes other people remind you, oh, you're still doing that bit. And I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that's good. Well, I don't know why I stopped doing it, but yeah.
The interesting thing about watching any comedian is that they have to go on stage as though they've done it for the first time, even if it's second nature to them, and that's the key thing, because it makes them endearing, and you're very endearing. You're very, hello, I'm here, and and you're away, you know, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, I think, and there's some people that are so good at that. You know, there's some people are so. It's like, you know, for a fact they've been doing that material for a little while.
Yeah.
But they're still excited about it, and that's a real skill. It's a difference, you know. But then you've got other people where I think Stuart Lee, in his book, I'm sure you've read lots of comedians' books, but he said even once he's got a show that he's touring, he'll leave a little element of the show where he has to improvise something. I think there's like a list of 3 things in a routine, and he never pre-plans what the 3 things are, and it like snaps him into the room.
Brilliant.
Which makes total sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because what that does is it does make it different every night, because he never knows where he's going to get in. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's. I think crowd work and audience work, I think you're going to get that anyway, because you never know what the audience is going to be like. But there's lots of different devices.
I always try and do a newer bit every night.
Yeah.
Because, not necessarily brand new, untried, but something I'm working on.
Yeah.
Because it makes you concentrate.
Yeah.
Because it isn't embedded in your brain as well, so it kind of force you to concentrate and think about what you're doing.
Very much so. The most creative thing I've ever done, other than this blog, was write a play called The Applicant, which I wanted to take to the Edinburgh Fringe, which I might still do. But we raised a lot of money for Comic Relief. We did 3 shows for it, and it's basically about me coming down to London from Carlisle, and I've got a successful girlfriend who lives in London, but I haven't got a job. And so it's a series of interviews. I've never had an interview before in my life, and I progress to get the job. And there's lots of plot and everything, but by the time he gets the job, he dies, and the last the last scene is him at the gates of heaven or hell or wherever, and he's being interviewed by God, and God says, we've been watching you, and we'd like to offer you the job of interviewing corpses to go into heaven or hell. And I shrugged my shoulders, and that's it. So it's all about I'm in the waiting room for the interviews, and then the interviewer comes on. So in the waiting room, it's all about monologues. So I wrote all these great long monologues, and we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and I ran out the first night we did it, and I forgot my lines.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like a rabbit in headlights. I'm thinking, oh my God. But of course, that's acting, you're reading words. Is that the same with comedy, or with all the audience work and everything? You can bring it back very quickly, I think, because a lot of them make it look seamless.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's what you haven't got in plays and acting. Yeah. You can't stall. Yeah. You can't really stall or do something else. You've got to do what's in the script. Whereas comedy, if that does happen, you've got a luxury of, you'll remember something, you know, or you've got the audience to chat to, or you can have a drink of water, or you can stall a bit and let your brain catch up. Whereas acting, you've got to, someone else is relying on your, aren't they?
I was fine when my mate come on. My mate come on, did played all different interviewers, because you're bouncing off somebody. But if you're on your own, I found it terrifying. Yeah,
well, I suppose you've got no markers, have you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was.
Especially when it's a conversation, you know. Oh, I obviously answer that with this. When it's a complete monologue. That's tough.
I didn't make the same mistake twice. We did 3 shows. I got it word perfect. Right, let's move on. Let's move on to Edinburgh itself. I am very fortunate to be able to go to the Edinburgh Fringe every year. It's my holiday, apart from the last 2, of course. But when I go for a week and I see about 50 shows. I cannot get enough of it. Your first ever solo Edinburgh Fringe show was called A Boy Called Pugh in 2017. What was your first ever Edinburgh Fringe like?
Yeah, it was good. So in terms of career-wise, if I knew what I knew now, I probably would have waited a couple of years.
Right.
But I'm a big one for just doing it and just learning, and you're better for doing it. Sometimes you're better for jumping in the deep end and figuring it out. But that said, I loved it.
So did you go to Edinburgh and perform as one of 2 or 3 first, or was it straight away a solo show?
So I didn't even know that was a thing that people did,
Wow.
Rich. I literally just signed up.
Wow. So that, I mean, good on you. That is daunting to do an hour-long solo show.
It is, but at the same time, I didn't know,
Didn't know any different, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know, I had no kind of strategy, and some people will hold off doing their hour because of the award, and I was just never really into that. I just wanted to have a go,
And did you enjoy it? Was it a success?
It was good. It was a good show. It was a good first attempt, and I learnt loads. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Great experience. And you learn how to do Edinburgh, and you also learn how not to do Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So next time I thought, well, I really enjoyed that element of it, but I probably wouldn't do that bit again.
Yeah.
In terms of how to go about. It's a marathon. You're up there for months as an act.
Did you do the full 25 days?
I did indeed, mate.
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
That is amazing. Well done, you.
Wow, yeah. It was,
You're not learning anything else.
My accommodation as well was in a basement.
Right.
With one other guy who was out all the time. And there was no windows.
Oh,
and there's no way drying my clothes. It was
God.
So I learned a lot of how not to do Edinburgh. but
you've been back since.
Yeah, I went 20. So that was 2017. I went 2018 and 2019.
Yeah.
I was going to have 2020 off.
Yeah.
But obviously everybody did. And then I would love to go this year if
this year is their 75th, so it'll be a big one, and it's my 55th because my birthday's in August.
What date in August, Rich?
I'm going the midweek. I always go the middle week, so I'm going. I think it's August the 14th for the week.
Oh no!
So if you're there again, I will see you there, my friend.
Yeah, mate, I am. Yeah, I love Edinburgh. I love it. It's so exciting, great city, so much to eat and drink, and
As soon as you step off the train at Waverley, the atmosphere hits you, and you think this is going to be the best week of the year. And I'm one of these people who meticulously do a spreadsheet and fit everybody in, and then all my friends join in and they come along. They go, I might go and see that. But it's wonderful planning it all, and I just hope this year we can get back to some sort of normality. I mean,
a real one.
Yeah,
a real one.
They did one last year, and my friends went, but I didn't go. And the year that it was all online, it was very good that they did it, but it's not the same.
No, it's not. No, it can't be. Can it? You can't feel it the same.
Yeah, very, very much so. So to date, what has been your comedy highlight?
My comedy highlight. You know what? For me, it's never one moment. It's never one thing. It's always what I'm doing now. It's always the highlight is that I've managed to do it for so long, and I've got better, and I feel more comfortable. I've met so many people, and I've got genuine friends out of it. There's never one moment. Well, I did have a bit of a moment once. I got to go to Australia for winning the competition. I got to do a couple of months in Australia.
Yeah.
And it was a night time, and I'd done these gigs, and I was walking back to my accommodation, and it was in Perth, all these big kind of skyscrapers. I just thought, how have I got here? This is amazing. And it's quite overwhelming, It's quite. When I think of a standout moment, it's probably that. But it's just, look, you feel great every day doing it. It's awesome.
It must be incredible because to take a step back and to think, here I am, that must be extraordinary.
Oh, it's awesome. Or,
Yeah.
you see people queuing outside the venue to see your show in Edinburgh. And
and your name's there and everything. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's kind of. But for me, the highlight's always when you get a good new bit. I'm all about the thing itself. I am.
Right.
Even if I never performed, well, it wouldn't be. But I love having the ideas. That's what really I get a real kick out of that.
Brilliant. And do you have any ambitions as a comedian?
My ambition is to tour, to audience that know what they're coming to, and just bigger tours. I'd love to. Me and my friend are writing a sitcom. I'd love to.
Wow.
My ambition is just to be really, really good at comedy. To be as good as I can be.
Well, it won't be long before you do go on tour, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's one of my. It's achievable. It's a tangible goal. And then other things. What would I love to do? There's venues you'd love to do. There's certain. I'd love to go to New York, do some things in New York maybe one day.
Yeah.
And just do fun stuff and just enjoy it. And I'm just had a baby as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's it'd be nice for him, to get something he can look at when he's that older, like whether they'll get a show recorded or.
That's lovely.
Pictures of me on stuff or whatever.
That's
things like
brilliant. That. And I hope the sitcom goes well as well. Is it in early stages or development?
So we've been working on it. Me and the guy called Chris Washington. I don't know if you ever saw
brilliant.
Chris.
He's a lovely bloke. Yeah, I met him. He's really good.
Great guy, great, everyman comedian.
Yeah.
And people use that term like a bit in a kind of a stuck-up way sometimes, snobbish way, but it's gold dust to be an everyman. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So hard to do.
Yeah.
So we've been working on something with him and Simon Mayhew Archer.
Oh,
Who did This Country, and his dad did Vicar Dibley.
Yeah.
So as a three, we're working on something, and we've just got finished the first draft, and we think it's wicked. So we're gonna.
Oh, brilliant, mate! Well, all the very best with it, and I really do. I hope it's a massive success for you.
Thank you, mate.
How have you found online gigs as opposed to live gigs? Have you done many online gigs at all?
I've done a few, mainly thanks to our friend James Gill.
Yeah.
No relation.
I wish he was, but he's not, unfortunately.
Top guy, James.
He's
Unbelievable, man. But,
I call him my comedy brother.
Yeah, exactly. I found them much better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah. I think if they're done right, they're very good. They're a good substitute.
Yeah, and actually, when you get somebody who's really famous, like I've done a couple with for James, and I think Joe Wilkinson's been on a few, and Kerry Godleman. Yeah. It's like they're in your house talking to you. It's almost more intimate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's so good because, of course, you can see in people's houses, and so they can have a right go and see everything. There you are, and all this.
Yeah. But you'd never get that experience if it wasn't for that.
No.
So much better than I thought. To be honest, I was sceptical. I was one of these people who's like, my plan was to wait. I'll wait till it comes back.
Yeah.
But then I saw other people like, no, they're okay, they're good. And Sarah Millican ran one every week for comedians to do new material.
Yeah.
Much better. As an audience member, Rich, have the kind of scratch an itch for you as well?
I wouldn't have got through lockdown without online comedy. But having said that, you can't beat live.
Yeah.
When it started, I would go to Always Be Comedy Online. I'd go to Sean James' Monday night gig, Happy Mondays one, and I'd go to Jarlath Regan's Friday night Return of the Crack ones. They were all really well staged, well done.
Yeah.
But when Always Be Comedy first started, they didn't have any audio. A lot of them didn't have any audio. So I was sitting here laughing at four walls in silence. I thought I was going to be taken away. But when he opened up the front row, that was genius, because not only could he chat to the front row, the comedians could get a sense of the timing with the laughters. With the laughs.
I think that's a game changer, isn't it? It really was. And obviously, there's the tech side of it. They've got they can curate the front row as well, can't they?
Yeah. So when it's done well, it's great. But you can't beat live comedy, because you never know what's going to happen in the room, and it's all the time.
Exactly.
There's such a buzz.
So like getting ready to go out as well, aren't they? There's something about getting out. It's you're going to something. It's your night out. It's something like
very much so. Yeah.
But no, it's definitely much better than I thought it was ever going to be.
Yeah. And I think obviously they're going to continue with them, which is a good thing, because it also, excuse me, it also gives people who can't come to the specific live gigs a chance to see comedy, which can only be a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Who are your favourite comedians, past and present? You mentioned Peter Kay and Frank Skinner.
Yeah, so I love Harry Hill.
Oh, he's brilliant.
I love Harry Hill and Vic and Barber.
Yeah.
These people, they've got like a twinkle in their eye, haven't they? You see, especially in older comics now. So like they've got like a twinkle in their eye. I love it.
It's brilliant.
I love Billy Connolly, just getting into him more and more, really. At the minute, who do I love at the minute? I love a guy called Chris Kent. You ever seen Chris
he's brilliant. Kent? He's brilliant. He was flyering one year with Andrew Ryan, and I helped them flyer for his show, and then I went to see it, and he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant.
Like James Acash is obviously amazing.
Yeah.
Just so many. We're so lucky in this country, and I'm getting into more American guys now as well. I quite like a guy called Rory Scovel.
He's great. Yes, I saw him on Return of the Crack. He was hilarious. Yeah,
and so you did not? I would have gone to
that. Return of the Crack. Yeah.
Guy called Nate Bargatze.
Right.
He's dead good on Netflix. I love Aaron Tiernan.
Oh, he's good. Yeah.
I love like Victoria Ward and even like Jasper Carrot and you kind of there's always like a nostalgic element.
There is. I saw pretty much all of them live. Who you've just said: Jasper Carrot, Victoria Ward, Peter Kay, Frank Skinner, Vic and Bob. I saw the Big Night Out on tour. And Les walked on the character in the white jacket, and he had to climb a ladder and fish for loaves. And when he caught a loaf, everybody cheered him. It was extraordinary.
I didn't know if you were in London, Rich, when they were the very early days before it got onto TV. I didn't know if you were somebody that would have stumbled across that, or if you weren't.
I knew about it, but I didn't get to it. I first went to the Comedy Store in 1988, and but they were Malcolm Hardy's Up the Creek, weren't they? Vic Reeves was performing, and Bob Mortimer was famously in the crowd, and he got up and just messed about with him, and they became a great double act. They're a wonderful double act. They made me laugh so much because they're so surreal. But it worked. They take everybody with them. Yeah, exactly. And it's such a great journey.
It's really in a sweet spot, aren't they?
Yeah, superb. And when you said about Harry Hill, I'm his number one fan. I'd so wish he would come on here and do this. I first saw Harry Hill 30 years ago. This is infamous. And it was downstairs at the King's Head. He was an unknown name, and he was late for the gig. and he brushed past me, jumped up onto the stage, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I had to have a testicle brought down. That's why I'm late." And then he paused and he said, "From Derby." It was the best opening line I've ever heard.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just got so
It's
many,
just
hasn't it? It's got
fantastic.
so many.
He's so good. So yeah, and it's wonderful, as I said earlier, to watch them grow. You know, it really is.
Yeah, yeah.
Just following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
So, only in Edinburgh.
Right.
So obviously, I'm kind of gigging when other people are gigging. But the great thing is, you get to watch loads of comedy.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have the experience of sitting in the audience unless you're in Edinburgh. And in Edinburgh, I'll queue up and I'll book tickets and I'll go and see stuff. And some people don't. A lot of comedians don't. They like to chill out in Edinburgh, and I totally get that as well. But I love going and seeing people over an hour, sitting in the audience, what they've come up with this year, I love all that. I find it so exciting.
Are you as bad as me in Edinburgh? Do you see about 50 shows?
Probably not.
No.
Not because I just can't. But I'm fortunate. I've got the 4 weeks. I can spread it over 4 weeks.
Where yes,
you're on a tighter.
I've only got
schedule.
a week.
Yeah.
So, if you're on a bill, do you stay and watch the other acts?
It all depends really. If it's my friends or if it's somebody I've not seen before, or if in your personal life you've got stuff you need to get back for or travel.
Yeah.
But I will. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
And, what I like is as well. Sometimes you do weekend gigs with the same people.
Yeah.
And I like seeing what they do on different nights as well.
Brilliant. I've much enjoyed talking to you. You've been a wonderful guest, and thank you so much for your time. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and all the very best to you. And I'm looking forward very much to coming and see you live very soon.
Yeah, I'll see you there, mate.
All the best, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers, Rich.